to start a podcast in 2024 and beyond. I'm sure you can start it the same way in 2025 and 2026, although maybe AI will have more of a role in the future. I know that there are plenty of people on YouTube telling you, just get a microphone, just record some things and then just release them. That's not really who I am. That's not who I'm talking to today. You're the person that wants to do it like professionally from the word go. You want to know all the steps, you want to figure it all out, and you want to give yourself the best start to it. So we're going to go through a whole bunch of things today. I've got about 15 steps to get through. Let's see how we go. First things first though, if you like this kind of content, please subscribe to the channel, and I want you to be interactive. So if you want to put comments and ask me questions, that is completely fine. I love to answer questions. If you want to skip this whole thing, you're like, oh my God, can someone just do this for me? We do have launch packs on our website, bambymedia.com, where you can pick a launch pack. We basically do what we're describing for you now in a lot of detail. There's also a how to get started consult where you and I get together for 60 minutes. We nut out a lot of the things, and then we discuss how you're going to record it, who you're going to do it through, what you're going to do, what the budget is, who it's for, all the things in that consult. So if you're thinking straight up, Bamby Media, please do it, then you can get in touch with us via the website to do that. But for the rest of you, let's get stuck in. First thing I want you to do is establish your why. So why do you want to have a podcast in the first place? Do you want to build your own personal brand? Do you want to build a business brand? Are you trying to sell or showcase your services? Are you trying to sell more of your products? Are you wanting to build a community? You wanting to establish better connections? You want to attract sponsors? You want to sell merch? What's the actual reason why you're starting your podcast? And if the reason why is someone told me I should probably do it, then you definitely shouldn't do it. Don't be someone who starts it because someone else has one and maybe you think you should. You've got to have a good reason to start, because podcasting is a long game. It's going to take you potentially a few years to gain the really serious traction that you might be after. If you don't have a really solid why, then it's going to be a struggle for you to continue to do it on those days when you feel like I just can't be bothered. Once you've established your why, step number 2 is, who is the podcast for? Who is it actually serving? It's good in this stage to have a clearer kind of idea, if you can, the sort of age demographic that you're chasing. The gender potentially could be relevant. The hobbies that they're into. Are they professionals? What do they do for work? What kind of income do they have? What are their likes? What are their dislikes? If you've heard about people talking about finding an avatar, then that is something that you could potentially look at doing, because if you can establish who you are talking to, then it means that you can serve them in a way that feels like it's going to resonate with them. So if you know your why, and then you've established who the person is that's listening, then that gives you a pretty clear picture straight out of the gate who it's for and why you should do it. Step number 3 is, why would the person that you've established as the person that would listen to your podcast, why are they listening to you? So are they in it for the lols? Do they just want some humor, entertainment? They just want to laugh? They want you to be the one that makes them laugh? That's great. That could be all that you need. Are they looking for companionship? So a lot of people for YouTube channels, let's say, they get invested in an influencer or a creator because they love them. The daily vlogs or the little bits and pieces that they get to learn about the person or their life or their traveling or whatever, So that can be all that you're trying to do through your podcast. Are they listening to you because you are educating them? So me right now, that's kind of my aim. If we think about why I started a podcast here at Bamby Media, I'm the head of this company, and then I established the podcast because I wanted to reach more people that were into podcasting. I wanted to stop saying the same thing over and over again privately to different clients and people that were having consults. I felt like if it was all here on YouTube and on the podcast, then it was just an easy way for me to reference things when I'm having conversations with people. build our thought leadership in the space. And then who we're talking to is essentially podcasters or people building unique brands that they want to have a podcast associated with. And then why they're listening to us, or why they should, is because we're educating. Yeah, so I've got that sorted. It may just be because they're interested in your services or your product as well. So it might be a personal brand that has like really good beauty products, and then they have a podcast that's associated with it. So it could be a branded podcast and they love that brand. Once you've established that, then again, it feels like you're getting a little bit more solid into who it is and why your podcast should exist. Then you can kind of, if you want, do a little bit of market research into whether your idea's already been taken, but I don't like to go down that path too much because it's just going to lead you to comparisonitis. As long as you're not directly copying someone else, you have your own unique flavor. So whatever you say is going to be your own unique way of saying it. I'm sure there's plenty of YouTube channels that have, how to start a podcast, but I'm not going to go look at them because I have a unique way of delivering the information. I'm me. No one else is me. So I don't really care what else is out there on the topic, more than just the initial sort of search to see whether I've missed anything, I think would be the only caveat that I would say to that. If there's something that feels like it's missing, you might want to have a look around to see what other people have done on that topic. Now, if we move into step number 4, we have to establish how you're actually going to record the podcast. Are you going to be, firstly, having just solo episodes, or are you going to have solo and guest episodes, or are you going to have a co-host? So that's something to think about. And then further to that, is it going to be an audio-only podcast? Is it going to be audio and video? Are you going to have in-person content? So as in you're in-person at home? Are you going to have in-person, but you're in a studio? So you go to a studio to record? Or are you going to be remote? So if you're interviewing someone there and somewhere else, there's a bunch of different ways that you can actually do podcasting. And so you have to establish what that's going to look like. It could be that audio only is how you start, but you want to think about long-term moving into video and going into YouTube. I certainly have a lot of data to back up the idea that having an associated video portion of your podcast is extremely important, just because brand recognition is easier to establish when you have a video portion as well. It's easier to repurpose. You do it once, you do it right, you can repurpose the hell out of it. To me, video makes the most sense if you're wanting to build it as more of a machine to then use in socials and blogs and website and all the other things. Video was kind of a no-brainer, though with Bamby Media, we didn't start on video, we started just on audio quite a while ago and just had some audio-only stuff. You don't have to start with all the things, but do have a trajectory of where you're thinking of going, because that's going to inform how you're going to set up your space and what kind of help you might need to set up the space. Again, something we can help with here at Bamby Media. You can book in for a consult and we can go through all of that stuff as well. Step number 5, if we've established how you're going to do it, well, what equipment are you going to need? What software you might need? What hardware you might need? So gear, what kind of microphones? And we've got a lot of those videos here on Bamby Media. What kind of microphone is best suited to you and your specific environment? The kind of software you might need, as I mentioned before, Riverside FM could be something that you're using if you're remote, or Squadcast or Zencaster. There's a heap of those things. If it's more local, then again, you've got to have software to then edit your show if you're doing it yourself. And we will get to that. So there's a bunch of different options there. And then it's like, okay, well, if I need particular software, do I understand how to use that software? What software versions are going to be the easiest for a complete novice to work with? Or am I outsourcing all of this? Yeah, that's something to then think about. So step number 6 then should therefore be, what's your budget? This is a big one because a lot of people go,
oh, but I'm not going to get any return on this investment if I, put a lot of money into it.
And I'm sort of like, I'm of the opinion, and of course we've seen it a lot now, we've been doing this almost a decade here as podcast producers. I see the ones that invest a little, and I see the ones that invest a lot. The ones that invest a little don't kind of go very far. They can keep going, but the actual growth is kind of capped. Because when I say investment, it doesn't necessarily mean monetary investment, investment in time in all the other things that you have to do. And I have a podcast episode on this particular topic where I talk about going pro with podcasting. It's so hard to get momentum if you don't put a significant investment behind the thing. So whether that's your time or your money, it's up to you. I guess the easiest or the cheapest route is doing everything yourself. I say cheapest as in money you hand over, but it will take you significant time to produce your podcast. So you can do it yourself. You could outsource your launch only, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video. So if you wanted just to give us free reign to kind of launch your show with you, then you could do a launch pack and then handle the rest yourself from there. You could get audio editing help only. You could get audio and video help, or audio, video, and graphics help. So if you're putting things on YouTube and you want someone to help you with your thumbnails as well, with your graphics, also graphics for your website, graphics for, your episode artwork for individual episodes. Graphics are pretty important, so it's good to establish that. Or you might want audio and visual help and graphics and repurposing. So you've got someone or a team helping you with the repurposing angles as well, like doing video snippets or writing a blog post. Those kind of aspects would be included in kind of a repurposing package. Or if you've just really all I want to do, I just want to create, I just want to record, and I want someone else or a team to do absolutely everything else, then outsource the whole shebang. You can see kind of the breakdown of what those things are on our website on the services page. We don't have our prices on there, but if it's something that you're interested in, then you can absolutely reach out via the contact page and we can work through what the kind of options are for you for your budget, okay? But it's important for you to establish the budget straight up or pretty close to the start. How much am I willing to invest time and money? Let's keep going. Next up is step 7. What are you going to talk about? Seems like maybe you should have thought about this prior, but nah, you don't have to think about it just yet because you were establishing all these other things first. Who it's for, why you're doing it, what are they going to listen to you for? All that stuff is really important to establish. Now you can start to go into the actual content planning. And I do have a video and a podcast episode that talks about content planning somewhere in this stack. I'll find the link, I'll put it in the show notes, I'll put it in the description below. We recommend using tools like vidIQ and just YouTube search to find out what people are actually searching for. So what are the trending topics? That really helps you get going if you're just really unsure. There's also things like Answer the Public, which can help you, although they've changed things around a little bit and it's very hard to get anything that you don't have to pay for there anymore, which I'm not a huge fan of, but everyone's got to make a buck, I guess. So you can use tools like that to help you establish what kind of content you want to work within. You can also look at blog posts you've already done on your website. Maybe you have a book that you could reference, or you're looking through Instagram posts that you've done that have trended really well, the insights on the back end of those. Establish a bunch of content. I try and aim for 52 different episode titles before I do anything. I just make sure that there's a big stack of stuff to work with before I go, yes, this is good, this has legs, and this is worth my time. Once you've established all of those things, then you're pretty much ready to go. You're pretty much ready to hit the record button. By now, you should know how you're going to record it, what you're going to record it with, like with a microphone, please, with a microphone at the very least, and what software you're going to use to record into, whether that's GarageBand, Logic, Audacity, Descript, Riverside. Just sit down, plan some time, just take a few hours and record as many episodes as you can. I like to aim for 10 episodes. You don't have to do it all in one sitting. And if it's guest episodes, then you've got to organize guest scheduling, you've got to do that. Or if it's co-host, do all your scheduling stuff. But just get some episodes recorded. Once you've recorded some episodes, then you can start to listen back to them and edit them. In this phase, it's important for you to establish how you want the podcast to sound. What kind of editing do you want to do? Is it a little bit more involved? Do you want sound effects? Do you want Foley? Do you want some music? Are you keeping it really minimal? So many ways that you can actually edit a podcast. But from that editing phase, you start to get a really good feel as to how you sound, and some people hate the way they sound, okay? Like that's actually very common. So if that's you and you're like, oh my God, I hate the sound of my voice, maybe don't do your own editing to begin with, because it might just be too much for you. I've certainly had that experience where someone's come to us and they started doing it themselves and they couldn't handle listening to their voice that much. I totally get it. Can I edit this myself, or do I want to outsource it? How much work is this actually? A lot of people realize it's quite a lot of work if they're doing it themselves, but it's important to establish a kind of rhythm for your edit, and you start to realize how good your show is, or how bad it is. Let's hope it's not bad, but it does give you a jumping off point. So try and record as many as you can. 10 is good. Edit about 5, and then you start to get a feel for how the edits are going. If you're going to outsource your editing from the get-go, that's awesome. Just record and then outsource. Just give it to whoever you're going to give it to. If you want to be on the client roster here at Bamby Media, then you can certainly apply. But establishing an editing cycle is good. So get your editing going. Now, next step is picking your theme music. This is step 10. Picking the theme music is really fun. It's one of the most fun aspects I find, although I am a musician, so that part is probably always going to be a real joy to me. You're trying to establish what your brand is feeling like based on your theme music and the timbre of your voice. So not every song is going to suit your voice. I recommend using tools like Artlist, Music Bed. There's a few other ones, Audio Jungle, although I don't use them so much. Make sure that you get proper licensing for the tracks so that you're not breaking any rules, you're not infringing on anyone's copyright. And then we like to pick about 6 tracks, and then we put them together with a person's voice with the dulcet tones and see how it fits. I also recommend trying not to use music with voice in it already, like vocals, because it normally just conflicts with your voice. So try and pick something that is instrumental only. The next step is then to have proper branding associated with your podcast. So you can use tools like Canva to help you do that. You want to try and establish some colors that you're going to use in your podcast artwork, and some fonts that you would associate. I would recommend maybe 2 fonts max. And then at this point, you can start to get this real feel for how it's kind of going to work. You've got theme music, you've got colors, you've got fonts, and mixed in that is, well, what are you going to name your show? And that's why I often say, like, don't name your show until it's kind of later on down the track. You've established then what the show is about. You've recorded some stuff, you feel like you know what it is more, and it will help you think of a title a bit easier. Thinking of a title first can be really hard, and also just pigeonhole you a little bit too much. So if you can just hold off on that, play with it a bit, use ChatGPT to kind of narrow some bad ones down and get to a point where you feel like you're happy with the actual overall brand of your podcast. Step number 13, I want you to decide on a release frequency. Is it going to be something that you release twice a week, weekly, fortnightly, monthly, every other day, daily? There's so many different release frequencies that you can work within, but the best way to establish what that is, what that looks like, is what can you commit to? And it's fine to take breaks, that's completely fine, but you do need to have some sort of regularity in there. And if you can only commit to monthly, then do monthly. You won't get traction, sorry. You won't get a lot of traction to begin with releasing monthly. I've not seen it work that way ever. But if that's what you need to do to begin with, to kind of get you in the feel of it, then do that. I would try and work myself up to a weekly release. And if you want to take a few breaks throughout the year, take a couple of weeks off every now and again, that's totally fine to do. But the consistency in podcasting is something I've really seen benefit every client that we work with. The ones that stick around, the ones that have been with us for the long haul, they have a really consistent release frequency, and you just see that pottering along really nicely and building over time. So think about the consistency that's actually going to work for you long term and commit to that. Number 14, deciding on a release date. So this is the launch date. When are you going to launch the show? It is something that you can think about earlier, but then I feel like as well, it can sometimes get a little bit overwhelming if you've got this launch looming but you're still not quite sure of these things. And sometimes I just find just nut out some of the other stuff first, feel like you're really grounded in your decision and what you're doing, then go, okay, cool, I've got a few episodes like in the catalog ready to go. I'm going to record a few more, I'm going to start building this stuff up. Then have your launch plan ready, like start looking at a launch. We have a video here on YouTube and on podcast platforms that steps through the entire launch process. I definitely recommend checking that out if that's something that you get to this point and you're like, yeah, but how do I tell everyone about my show? How do I actually launch it? There is a very good YouTube video that explains all of that for you. Number 15, pick a podcast hosting service. So you cannot launch a podcast without a podcast hosting service of some sort. The ones we like to recommend are Captivate and Buzzsprout. Captivate I like because you can have your own dynamic ad insertion and you can decide where you want to put those ads. I'm not going to go into it here in detail. I will do a separate video about what that actually means for those that don't really understand, but Captivate lets you do that. Buzzsprout lets you have dynamic ads as well, but you can't choose where they are placed in the episode, and you can't have them in your episode if your episode is under a certain length. That's at time of recording. That may change by the time you watch this. But Captivate for me is the one that has all the features the way I like them. And so that's the one I recommend the most. If you're interested in Captivate, I will put an affiliate link to Captivate in the show notes as well so that you can go ahead and do that if you want. Number 16, produce your first 5 to 10 episodes. When I say produce, not just edit, this is where you're thinking about and you're actually planning not just the edit, but the mixing phase, what your show notes are going to look like. Are you writing long article posts to go with them? How much repurposing are you doing? What kind of social media collateral are you doing for these episodes? Are you doing video snippets? Are you doing quote graphics, audiograms? Are you doing website blog posts? That's the production. That's the whole kind of shabam. Kazam? I don't know what that, shabam? Shabam feels like a thing, I don't know. It needs to be more than just editing it. What's all the other stuff? You need to do all the other things as well. So put that together for at least the first 5 episodes, but I like to have 10 so that when you release, you've got, you can just chill a little bit, you can relax, not chasing your tail from the very first step. Number 17, produce your trailer episode. So I have a podcast episode and a YouTube video that talks specifically about the trailer episode, what to include and why it's important. This is the stage where I think you should have a trailer episode recorded. That can mean that you're using snippets from the episodes that you've already edited in that trailer to give people a sneak, or it can just be a very simple kind of trailer. But it is important to have a trailer because that is going to be the first thing that people see that's associated with your show, but it also makes it easy to get your distribution up and going on Captivate and Buzzsprout and Apple Podcasts and Spotify and all the things. Without dropping an actual episode, you can drop a trailer episode and let that chill while everything else is happening. So the trailer episode is one of the most important things that you make sure that you do, and I do it around this phase. Number 18, submit your podcast to all the podcast platforms. And the way to do that is via the podcast host that I also already told you to do. So through Buzzsprout, through Captivate, you're able to set up your distribution channels. So tick all the boxes, say you want to distribute on all the things, except for Apple Podcasts because they're so fancy, you have to do it via Apple Podcast Connect, not via the distribution services. Again, at time of recording, maybe that will change by the time you produce your show. But you need to log into the back end of Apple Podcasts, you need to get a username, you need to, there's too many steps. There's too many steps with this bit. And again, if you're listening to this, you're watching this, and you're like,
Brianna, what the hell? This is so many things and you're freaking me out.
And you can just come to us. We can launch the podcast for you. We can take care of a lot of this stuff. And then you can come on as a client if we have capacity, or you can be sent on your merry way with at least the first hurdles jumped over. Once you've submitted your show to podcast platforms, you then have to wait. You have to wait for the podcast to appear on all the podcast platforms. These days, that doesn't tend to take all that long, which is kind of cool. But yeah, you just kind of have to chill and wait. Can be 24 hours, could be 48, could be a couple of days. Just do something else in the meantime. And if you've got a trailer episode, then all that's going to be live is the trailer. So it doesn't hurt your launch, yeah? Because you've got a trailer. Just chills there, that comes up when it gets launched, and then you can launch your actual episodes on the dates that you actually want to launch the episodes. The very last step, don't forget to schedule more episodes in. Schedule them into the back end of your podcast host. Put release dates on them, put release times on them, make sure you've done the production, the full shebang of all the things for at least 10 episodes, and then you can just relax. Just relax and know that your podcast is launched, you've got a bunch ready to go, and you have a plan to record and edit or offload the rest of them. This is how to start a podcast pretty detailed in 2024 and beyond. There are things that I haven't mentioned here because I feel like I'm overwhelming you with information. I apologize. It is something that you can do in a less full-on way. As I said at the beginning of this video, you can just pick up a microphone, plug it into your phone, record some stuff with nothing, no video, no anything, and then put it on a podcast host, and that's it. You don't have artwork, you don't have anything. You could technically do that, but I'm not really talking to that person here. I'm talking to the person that's like, give me all the juice. I want to know all the things to do, or I want to know why it's important for me not to do it, for me to outsource my podcast to somebody else like Bamby Media or other podcast production services. Now that you know all that, what's actually stopping you from doing it? Nothing? I hope nothing. Have I missed any steps? I'd love for you to tell me in the comments.
Brianna, you're such an idiot. You didn't include this thing. How did you not know that?
I mean, I will be embarrassed and ashamed, but I will also welcome the feedback on that as well. If you'd like to reach out to us, head over to bambymedia.com and you can see all the things we do. Go to the contact us page. You'll be able to contact us and do the stuff. Interested in our services, go to the service page. Interested in having a chinwag with me on my podcast and you have a podcast yourself, you can reach out via the contact page as well and we can have a chat about podcasting. That's it. I hope you like all the things. That is your launch. That is your plan. That is how to start a podcast. I hope you've enjoyed it. Have a great rest of your day.